Hello and welcome to the agenda. I am Ajay Kaul. In this program today, we will discuss about Pakistan's obsession with Kashmir, even as the world has snubbed it repeatedly. Even after getting no attention earlier, Pakistan has yet again raked up the issue of Kashmir at the platform of United Nations. Its Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has said it is one of the long-standing disputes needing settlement. He has said people of Jammu and Kashmir are waiting for settlement of the dispute. Therefore, we thought of talking to a senior leader from Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Professor Sajjad Raja, to understand what people of Jammu and Kashmir want. So, in the agenda today, we are joined by Professor Raja straight from Geneva, where he is attending a conference of UN Human Rights Council. But before we start our conversation, let us have a look at this small report.
Pakistan's rant over Kashmir continues, even after it has faced international embarrassment and snub. It once again dragged up the issue at the United Nations, misusing the global platform. Its Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has said it is one of the most long-standing dispute needing settlement. India was quick to rubbish this contention at the same forum, saying the only unfinished agenda on the table of the UN is scourge terrorism, whose roots are in Pakistan. Indian diplomat Vidisha Mehta, while exercising the right of reply by India to Qureshi's statement, said it was hoped the General Assembly would be spared another repetition of the baseless falsehood that have now been trademark of Pakistan's intervention of such platforms. She described Qureshi's utterances as never-ending, fabricated narrative about the internal affairs of India. We reject the malicious reference made to the Union territory of Jammu and Kashmir, which is an integral part of India, Mehta said. She said Pakistan is a country which is globally recognized as the epicenter of terrorism, which by its own admission harbors and trains terrorists and hails them as martyrs and consistently persecutes its ethnic and religious minorities. Pakistan, the Indian diplomat said, would do well to turn its attention inward to immediately addressing these pressing concerns instead of diverting attention from them by misusing the UN platform. Qureshi racked up the Kashmir issue at the UN despite the world's body asserting again and again that it has nothing to do with it. Also, Pakistan, while seeking implementation of UNSC resolution of 1948 on Kashmir, conveniently skips the first step mandated in the resolution. That is, Pakistan should withdraw its forces and irregulars who transgressed into Jammu and Kashmir in October 1947. Pakistan illegally occupied parts of Jammu and Kashmir, which included Gilgit-Baltistan, militarily in 1947 and has been subjecting the populace there to oppression and deprivation. The people of the occupied Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan have been seeking independence from Pakistan, and this demand is being articulated with more force now. Bureau Report.
Now, let's welcome our special guest, Professor Sajjad Raja, who is in Geneva. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you.
So, Professor Raja, I just want to refer you to the statement by Pakistan Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi at the UN. He says Kashmir is the long-standing dispute and it needs settlement. People of Jammu and Kashmir are looking for settlement. So, as a Kashmiri, I want to ask you, what kind of settlement are you looking at?
Ajay, Shah Mahmood Qureshi Saab is 100% right when he says that it is a long-standing issue and it's a long-standing dispute. He is correct. Jammu and Kashmir is a long-standing dispute, but the fact is that it is not a dispute between Pakistan and India. It's an issue between the people of Jammu and Kashmir and the government of India. Pakistan, our point of view is that Pakistan is not a party to the dispute. Pakistan is an aggressor, Pakistan is an illegal occupier, and Pakistan has got no right whatsoever to talk about Kashmir. Who has given Pakistan a right to talk about Kashmir. So it's none of Pakistani business. It is a dispute. It is an issue between the people of Jammu and Kashmir and the government of India.
So when Shah Mahmood Qureshi refers to UN resolutions, UN Security Council resolutions of 48, but he actually cleverly skips the mention that UN resolution has asked Pakistan to vacate as an aggressor. So how do you see that?
Uh, it's not, we are not living in a cave age. We are living in a digital age. It's the era of information technology. Everybody nowadays knows, like what are the facts and what the history about anything is. So Pakistan can't befool everybody. Pakistani leaders, they can't play around it now anymore. So UN resolutions very clearly, UN resolutions have asked Pakistan to vacate Jammu and Kashmir, to pull out their forces and even their citizens. So Pakistan has no right whatsoever to stay in Jammu and Kashmir.
So as a Kashmiri, how do you see the HR human rights situation in Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan, since you are attending Human Rights Council meeting in Geneva?
Ajay, this is very touchy issue. I get very sentimental when somebody talks about human rights issue in our part of Jammu Kashmir, Gilgit-Baltistan. We are living in a hell, honestly speaking, and there are no human rights, no basic human rights, no political rights, no constitutional rights, no economic rights, nothing. Our people have got nothing, and we blame India for our miseries, because it is India who has created this situation. It is India who has left us alone. It is India who has left us at hands of Pakistan. But as far as your question is concerned, we haven't got any basic human rights in either in Azad Kashmir or Gilgit-Baltistan.
But is it really Azad, as you mentioned, Azad Kashmir? Is it really Azad?
Well, they call it Azad Kashmir, and nowadays everybody knows Azad. There is no, and I mean, we can't find any other country in the world. There are over 200 countries on the globe who are Azad, who put this prefix with their name. So there is no Azad Germany, there is no Azad Britania, there is no Azad Bharat. Even there is no Azad Pakistan, there is no Azad America. So why Azad Kashmir? So that means there is something fishy.
So Azad,
it's nonsense.
So
No
the word Azad is used to basically mislead the world, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, yeah. And that is, since 1947, unfortunately, Pakistani leadership, they think that the world is, they are full of goose, and people don't understand what are they doing and what are they saying. That's why Pakistan is isolated on the international platform today. Nobody is with Pakistan. The reason, Pakistani policies and Pakistani, foolishness. They think probably they are over clever, but they are not clever. They can't play around like this anymore.
But Pakistan has been exposed on Kashmir issue. Even the OIC now doesn't listen to it. Islamic countries, as Pakistan claims to be the champion of Muslim world, but even the Islamic countries have seen through its games in Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Pakistan, honestly speaking, Pakistan has only one friend, and it's, like mutual convenience, and that is China. If China today leaves Pakistan, Pakistan can't even survive. So China have their own interests, and Pakistan have their own interests. So Pakistan doesn't have, I don't think Pakistan has got any real friend in the whole Islamic world.
Professor Saab, since you mentioned China, so we are seeing increasing activities or involvement of China in Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan. So how do you see that situation? I mean, it's like Pakistan is subletting it to China.
Yeah, that is what our belief is, and Pakistan is basically unable to control Jammu and Kashmir now, because people of Jammu and Kashmir have risen now. People of Jammu and Kashmir have come to the conclusion that Pakistan, they have no future with Pakistan. And Pakistan, honestly speaking, Pakistan can't control people of Jammu and Kashmir without any foreign help, and that foreign help is sought from India, from China now. And China, as I said, they have their own interests, their economic interests, and their geopolitical interests. Obviously, China is an emerging world power, so they have their own global interests, and they are using Pakistan for their own interests. But Pakistan, as far as we feel, like, Imran Khan Saab issued a map, I think it was last month or a couple of months ago.
Right.
And that map is a proof that Pakistan has opened the borders with China. And Pakistan has given consent, and Pakistan has given a signal to China that they can occupy whatever area, whichever area they want, the part of Jammu and Kashmir. So yeah, that is the fact, and everybody knows it.
But Professor Saab, as you talked about that Pakistan is not able to control, what do you mean by Pakistan is not able to control? Is there an uprising in Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir, Gilgit, Baltistan?
There is actually, basically, the hearts and minds, Pakistan has lost hearts and minds of the people of Jammu and Kashmir. People of Jammu and Kashmir are suffering from, in medical terms, we say they are suffering from a psychological disorder, which is called the Stockholm Syndrome.
Right.
So that is the reason. Otherwise, people of Jammu and Kashmir are not with Pakistan. They don't like Pakistan. They don't want to stay with Pakistan, and they understand that they haven't got any future with Pakistan because 74 years of occupation, or 74 years of this arrangement which Pakistan had with the people of Jammu and Kashmir has now given a clear-cut verdict to the people of Jammu and Kashmir that Pakistan doesn't care about the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan has no interest with the people of Jammu and Kashmir. Pakistan only wants their resources and their land. So that's why people of Jammu and Kashmir are not with Pakistan. That is the situation.
Professor, in fact, the Pakistan's minister in charge of Kashmir, so-called in charge of Kashmir, a few days back, in fact, he also said the same thing, that Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan have been kept deprived over the last 73, 74 years by the Pakistani regimes. So I think he is confirming what has been said, isn't it? They are acknowledging the fact.
Yeah. As I told you, we don't have any economic rights. There is no development in either in Gilgit-Baltistan or POJK, Pakistani occupied Jammu and Kashmir. There are no hospitals, there are no schools, there are no roads. There are no employment opportunities.
No internet.
And even internet, it's just 2G. Now, 2G service or maximum 3G service in 2020. Obviously, it's and even the president of High Commissioner of Human Rights Council, United Nations Human Rights Council, in their report, they have said that Pakistan has deprived people of Jammu and Kashmir and they don't have internet facilities. So this is internationally recognized now. So we have got nothing. Internet comes, internet or these facilities are not basic human rights. I'm talking about basic human rights. We haven't got any job opportunities. We can't earn anything. We can't earn our like our living if we stay in Pakistani occupied Jammu Kashmir and Gilgit Baltistan. We can't keep our children healthy. There are no health facilities. There are no education. We can't educate our children. There are no roads. There are no airports. There is no railway. Nothing of this modern world, like today's world. No facility, nothing. So, internet, internet. How can we talk about internet when we haven't got even bread to eat?
So yours.
When we haven't got a paracetamol pill. So, how to talk about internet?
So what you want to say is that people of Pakistan occupied Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan are discriminated against by Pakistani governments and Pakistani regime, which is mostly Punjabi.
Yeah, definitely. People of Jammu and Kashmir and Gilgit-Baltistan have been deprived of their every sort of rights, and we, what I want to say, my message is that, well, people of Jammu and Kashmir, under whatever circumstances, even India had agreed in 1948 that Pakistan is a party to the dispute, Jammu and Kashmir dispute. And United Nations agreed that Pakistan was a party to the Jammu and Kashmir dispute, which we don't believe. People of Jammu and Kashmir, this is our issue. We don't believe that Pakistan is a party to the Jammu and Kashmir dispute, but, well, India has accepted them, United Nations has accepted them. But what we want to say today is, like, if a marriage can't run, if a marriage can't survive, so what is the option then? Obviously divorce.
Right.
And divorce is a basic human right of every living person, like everybody on earth. They have this right. If they can't pull on with any relationship, they have to get out of it.
It is
So
it is anyway a forced marriage. It is not a marriage of convenience.
It was a forced marriage. No, it was not a marriage. As I don't accept it as a marriage. It was an abduction, and it has been a rape throughout these 73, 74 years. So I don't consider it as a marriage. It has never been a marriage. But we want to get out of this relationship. No, whatever sort of relationship this is, we want to get out of it.
So, Professor, we have been witnessing protests over Bhasha Dam, which is being built by Chinese. So, why are people of POJK protesting against that Bhasha Dam?
Ajay, this is not Bhasha Dam. Basically, Bhasha is in Pakistan. Bhasha place.
Bhasha Dalmar Dam.
This dam is in Diamir.
Yeah, Dalmar. Yeah.
And Diamir is a part of Gilgit-Baltistan.
Yeah.
The whole land which would be swallowed by this dam is Gilgit-Baltistan. It's not Bhasha. And the dam is being built in Gilgit-Baltistan. Our lands are being destroyed. Our resources, everything, our livelihood, and they give it name Bhasha because Bhasha is in Pakistan. So they want to befool
mislead.
They use the term Azad Kashmir. They are using term this Bhasha that this is in Pakistan. This is a Pakistani dam. This is not a Bhasha dam. This is Diamir dam. See, as they have done previously, like Mangla. Mangla is not Mangla dam, which is known as Mangla dam. That is basically Mirpur dam.
Right.
It has swallowed Mirpur. It is the whole dam, whole lake is in Mirpur. It swallowed the Mirpur city, and they call it Mangla Dam because Mangla is in Pakistan. So they want to give it. That's how they play around, and we just we are fed up with all this situation now. Are there thinking and their acts, whatever they are doing.
So Pakistan has been indulging in befooling and misleading. And how do you see the latest befooling tactic or whatever about making Gilgit-Baltistan the 5th province of Pakistan?
Well, Ajay, this is, I think, this is not this time probably on this issue. This is my personal opinion. I think they are not befooling anybody. they are trying their level best to make Gilgit-Baltistan their fifth province, and the reason is Chinese interest in that region. So if Chinese interests or issues are dealt with by India, or if India can deal with China, then probably Pakistan won't be able to do anything. But now it is in either in Chinese hands or in Indian hands. So if Indian government can sort out their issues with China, then I don't think Pakistan would be able to do anything. But they want to, because China is backing them, and China, this because of CPEC and then minerals and other resources and land and very fertile land and fresh waters and everything. Gilgit-Baltistan has got, and then its geopolitical importance which Gilgit-Baltistan has got. So China have their interest in the land, and if India can deal with China, then probably Pakistan won't be able to do anything. But if India fails to deal with China, then China would obviously would support Pakistan, and Pakistan might try this adventure, I would say. They might try to declare Gilgit-Baltistan as their province.
Why I am saying it is befooling, because this process or this proposal has been there since 2009, isn't it? But Pakistan has been hesitant, because what I say is, if Pakistan declares Gilgit-Baltistan as the fifth province, then the facade of declaring it as Azad Kashmir, so called, then it will come out. Then it will not be Azad Kashmir if you are amalgamating it into Pakistan, isn't it? So it's a dilemma for Pakistan.
You are right. It's very complex issue, and it's very entangled as well. But I think you have talked about, all previous governments, they have been talking about, like Nawaz Sharif government and previous governments, they have been saying that they will make Gilgit-Baltistan a province, and like temporary province, or
right,
whatever, Aburi Suba, and they have been saying it. But the thing is, this time I think probably they are serious. And the reason is it's Pakistan's survival is on stake now, and Pakistan is going through probably the worst time of their history. So that's why they are trying to do something serious this time.
But Professor Raja, I'll again ask this: if they make it the fifth province of Pakistan, then where does the Azad, the disputed status, come in? Then they will not be able to declare, talk about that it's a disputed status, disputed region, isn't it?
Since 1949, Pakistan has separated. Pakistan took away Gilgit-Baltistan from this so-called Azad Kashmir.
Right.
From 1947 till 1949, April 1949, for about 16-17 months, Gilgit-Baltistan was part of this so-called Azad Kashmir. But then through Karachi Pact, they took it away, and since then Gilgit-Baltistan is a separate entity. It has been run directly by Pakistani establishment, Pakistani officers. So I don't think that probably that would make much difference. But now the thing is, when somebody is dying, they have options, like what would they prefer and what are their choices. They have very limited options, and probably making Gilgit-Baltistan their province is maybe one of the last options they have got now.
But why are you saying that when Pakistan is dying and it is the last option? Why?
Pakistan, everybody knows, Ajay, Pakistan is a failed state. Pakistan died in 1971 when people of then East Pakistan and now Bangladesh, they decided to kick out Pakistan from East Pakistan. So Pakistan had died in 1971, and it's after 1971 it's Punjab which has survived, and in the name of Pakistan. So and even this Punjabistan, or this Punjab or this Pakistan which now is surviving, or is as we see it today, this Pakistan has loads of issues. Pakistan has governance issues, Pakistan has law and order issues, Pakistan has economic issues, Pakistan has civil issues. There are loads of things, like there is no institution in Pakistan, excuse me, in whole of Pakistan there is only one institution, and that is Pakistan Army.
Right.
There is no other institution whatsoever. So it's just a garrison state. It's a military state. It's not a country. It's military business. It's army's empire.
Right.
That's what Pakistan is. It's not a state.
Professor,
so how can they survive?
Professor Saab, we are running out of
I don't
time.
think so.
One last question is like India has been saying that Pakistan should vacate illegally occupied areas. So what do you feel how it should be done?
I think it should be done through taking international players into confidence, and the most important player I believe is China. China is a permanent member of Security Council, UN Security Council. They are second largest economy on the globe, and they are our neighbors as well. So I think India should take China into confidence. India should take other economic powers, other world powers into confidence, and that's how this should be sorted out. I don't think war would be a solution. I don't think so.
So basically, India should mobilize international opinion against Pakistan so that they vacate these areas. Thank you so much for participating in this.
India has successfully done it previously, but they should continue doing it.
So India should do more, perhaps. Thank you so much for participating in this debate, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is all in the agenda today. Thanks for watching. I will be back with another important topic tomorrow. Till then, goodbye.